Okay, today's question of the day. It's actually the first question of the day we've ever done. So I always get a ton of questions on Instagram. You can write to me on Instagram if you like, if you have a question. Now this question comes from Blue Sky Images on Instagram. She says she brought her Fuji X-T22. I didn't know that was a camera, but it's either the Fuji X-T20 or X-T2 to Colorado, and she left her Canon 6D behind, and she says she's having a little trouble with her output. Now, first of all, she says she's shooting JPEG. She wants to eventually shoot RAW, but for right now, she's a JPEG shooter. And before all of you go judge her and, force your religion on her that she should shoot RAW, just know that for some people, they don't want to process RAWs. They want the camera to take care of all of that, and I totally understand. I do recommend, though, that you do shoot, I was about to say JAW. I always say JAW. I always recommend to photographers anyway to shoot RAW and JPEG, because even though you're using all your JPEGs, you can always process your RAWs in camera. And so if you're like sitting around in the hotel room or on a bus or something, grab those RAW files and make them gross black and white, or see what Belvio would do. You can also do that in post-processing, like using Capture One. Capture One has a free Fuji 12 Express. I think it's called Capture One 12 Fujifilm Express 9.5. Anyway, you could use that to also simulate the film simulations, but it's great to do it in camera. So although you're a JPEG shooter, I do recommend you shoot RAW and JPEG. So she goes on to say she may have regretted not bringing the Canon, and you should never regret not bringing the Canon, because the Fuji can hold its own on vacation. And so here are my recommendations if you're especially coming from Canon, or if you feel the images are too dark, because this happened to me when I first started shooting with the Fuji X-T20. Okay, so hit your Q menu, check it out. If you go to, first of all, let's go to Shadows +2, so you could really see how black the blacks can get. So I like to use -1 for my shadows. If you see that right there, it's a little bit, quote, normal, a little bit more Canon-y. This is Shadows -2. I feel this is a little bit washed out, but if it fits your style, go for it. But that's -2. And this is what I mean, that you should tweak things to look a certain way. So I like to bring my highlights down. I bring my highlights down to -1, and I sometimes do +1, especially if we're hiking or something. I like to do a little bit more color, a little bit more vibrance there. Now, when you're ready to save your preset, just go to the Q menu like this, and then hold down the Q, and then pick which one you want. So right now, let's say this is my custom 6. All you have to do is hit to the right and say, click Save Current Settings. It'll update everything that you just changed. And when you go left, it's going to ask you, hey, you want to keep that custom setting? Just hit OK, and then you're set. Now, if you go to the Q menu, every time you go to 6, that will have your, here it is, custom 6. That'll have your look with highlights down, shadows down, and you can start saving your looks. So the best thing you can do with the film simulations is to tweak them to be your own. And the first recommendation I have is to, if you're coming from Canon, which doesn't have blacks that are that black coming out of the standard film simulation, is to make your shadows -1. And you want something just very general, colorful, has enough contrast, but doesn't have the Fujifilm blacky blacks that they're known for. I wouldn't start with like classic chrome and try to tweak that one. That one has its own flavor. Belvio also is just very punchy with colors, great for nature, great for flowers, but not for a general purpose look. I would stick with Provia and Astia, tweak those with shadows up, bring the highlights down, and that'll give you a nice general starting point. All right, I hope that helped you guys out.